you went from being a Republican and becoming a Democrat. And I
Mhm.
know that the question that you always get is what made you do the change. But the question that I have for you is, what appealed to you about the Republican Party? First of all.
So I grew up in a family that was the church, if I could be honest with you. When the
Mhm,
church that I went to, if you were a Christian, if you believed in God, then really they were single issue voters, and that was mostly the abortion issue.
mhm,
And so it was really an oversimplification. Um, and so it was just if you believe in God, if you want to go to heaven, then you're a Republican.
mhm,
And it we didn't question it. And
mhm,
until my kids turned into teenagers, and, I was giving them the bracelets, "So what would Jesus do?" bracelets, and they were calling
mhm,
me out on the hypocrisy and looking at the way I was voting and what it was doing to humanity, and my 19-year-old son looked at me one day and said, "I think you need to choose the party that looks the most like Jesus." That
mm.
was a tipping point, you
Yeah.
know?
Yeah. Was that the only, or not the only issue, but the most important issue for you?
Here's the thing. I think that a lot of times we're so busy living life that
Mhm,
we don't have time to really pay attention to how government works or how government isn't working. And so,
mhm,
if we can boil it all down to a single issue, then we feel good about how we vote. We're in that
mhm,
situation, we are voting to save the lives of unborn babies. And in that oversimplification, I could go in and vote and feel good about my vote, even though I knew nothing about what else was
mhm,
going on because we're just so busy doing life. But as I started to begin to question things and actually work in my community with people and listening to their stories, I started to see government has a much bigger responsibility and
mhm,
they were shirking their duty. And then when I started to actually look into the actual issue of abortion, and I realized that even in the Republican solution, if we can all agree that we would like the number of abortions to be as close to 0 as possible,
mhm,
then the Republican knee-jerk reaction is to stop the supply, make it illegal. What I chose to do in my questioning was to say, what about the demand?
mhm.
What if we looked at why women were making this difficult decision and address those issues and drive demand down? Therefore, it's still the woman's choice of what she's going to do with her own body. But no woman wakes up in the morning and says, you know what I really want to do today? I want to go terminate a pregnancy. There are
Right.
reasons behind those difficult decisions.
No, I totally agree with that. And it almost seems like we're not even arguing about the same issue. And what I mean is, so on one hand, Republicans are arguing that they're pro life, that
Mhm.
abortion is murder. On the other hand, Democrats argue that women should have the right to choose whatever they want to do with their body. So it seems like we're not even having the same discussion. And that's why it's so hard to even have a conversation
Mhm.
about, such a sensitive topic, such as
Mhm.
abortion.
Mhm.
Um, what I actually see in politics is that we do need some form of balance, and that's what I like about you, that you went from being a Republican to a Democrat, because you do carry that balance.
Mhm.
There are people that were born into a Democrat family, they stay a Democrat until they die, and that's just how it is. Some people do make the change. Some people go from being a Democrat to being a Republican. I voted for Republicans. I voted for Democrats because I believe that we do need um, balance in government.
Mhm.
And if we have one party that controls all three branches of government, and they control,
Like we do right now.
I'm sorry?
Like we do right now,
Yeah, exactly.
right? You see the problem with imbalance.
Hmm.
When one party has all the control, we the people lose.
Hmm.
When we take our election process and our government and we boil it down to red versus blue,
Hmm.
Republican versus Democrat, we the people lose because
Hmm.
we the people stay divided. And so we never come together to ask for and demand what we actually need and deserve. And that's
Right.
by design, right?
Yeah.
Divide and
Yeah. And uh, uh, there's this. like I guess if you want to call it like an inside joke, because I majored in finance, and
Mhm.
something that they uh, uh, say about finance and accounting majors is that you go in liberal, you come out a conservative because you start seeing how money is managed. And when we look at government, there's a lot of liberal spending from both sides, and I kind of get it, but
Mhm.
you do need a balance. Like, it, if it was Republicans and Democrats handling a budget, it would make much more sense to have that. I'm using that as an example because if you have just one side of the party, like if you just have Democrats running everything, Republicans will not really get a say in what is done with the budget, and the same with the other side. And the thing about uh, what is really interesting that's happening right now is you have a lot of people that are like 110% Donald Trump. You know,
Mhm.
it gets really dangerous because when you go with whatever one side uh, pushes, you start to lose your own thought behind your own decisions.
That's the
And
thing.
that's the same thing with having just one party control everything. We have Republicans right now in controlling, government. The same thing could happen with Democrats. And as someone that is in the Democrat Party, it also gets pretty dangerous because you might have something that the entire party does not agree with, but you will go along with whatever the party is because they're very powerful at the moment. And
So I'm gonna push back on that for a
mhm,
minute because, and maybe that's been true in the past. In fact, I
mhm,
believe that it has been true in the past. I think that right now we're looking at a lot of candidates across the country that are
mhm,
stepping up and saying, listen, people, this is not red versus blue. This is corporations versus people.
mhm,
And there are so many more of us people, right? And so when you have people like myself who are running for the right reasons, and when we have intelligent, thoughtful, peaceful, calm conversations about what we are fighting for, people don't disagree. I just spoke at a meeting where there was over 100 people there, and they were Republicans, Libertarians, Democrats. There was even a proud anarchist there.
mhm,
And I just
mhm,
asked them all to take off their hat that they use to define their political stance and just put on their American hat, and let's talk about childcare. Let's talk about education. Let's talk about healthcare. Let's talk about a woman's right to vote. Let's talk about the things that affect our daily lives. And all of a sudden, we realized we agree on so much more than we've been told we agree
mhm.
on, right? So you're a finance major, right?
Yeah.
I have a business major as well. So you understand ROI, return on investment,
Oh
right?
yeah.
So we've been told, and this was part of my thinking when I was a Republican, is that you can either do the fiscally responsible thing or the socially just thing.
Mhm,
But the socially just thing is fiscally irresponsible. And when I dug into the issues, I realized that's a lie. That is a false choice.
mhm.
The return on investment for childcare is anywhere from $7 to $14. So if you just pick 10 in the middle, and I said to you, if you give me a $1 bill, I'll give you a $10 bill back. Would you do that?
Oh yeah.
Would you get, yeah. How many ones would you give me? As many as you could find.
Oh yeah.
So why don't we have that? You see, our tax dollars, we entrust those to our federal government. They are supposed to spend them on our behalf. That is not happening. And in fact, I want the voters that I talk to understand that federal spending is investment
Mhm,
for exactly like the child care situation that I just told you about. So if they take every one of our tax dollars and invest it in childcare and it returns $10 back into the economy, why are we not doing that? It is the socially just thing to do and the
mhm,
fiscally responsible thing to do. We
mhm.
have just been played. We have been divided on purpose. So even when I hear you talk about if we have just one party in charge, then the Republicans might want to spend money that the Democrats don't, or the Democrats might want to spend money that the Republicans don't. I want to offer to you that what we are talking about is what the corporations want,
Hmm.
because the people want the same things.
Hmm.
We need the same things,
Yeah.
right?
Oh yeah, and it seems like we just spend money on so many things that we don't need, and things that have made us believe that are the right thing to spend money on. Uh,
Yeah,
eh,
you've been told.
yeah.
Hmm.
Um, for one, universal healthcare. We have Republicans saying that that's a bad idea. I'm like, well,
Hmm.
is it? Maybe we could implement it differently.
Yeah, listen, we have 32 other countries to look at. We don't have to reinvent the wheel. Let's see what's working and let's incorporate that, because out of the top 33 nations in the world, 32 of them have figured it out. Their people are
Mhm.
happy. And so my plan for universal health care is just a 5% tax. And then everybody can go to the doctor whenever they need to go to the doctor, right? No
Mhm.
copays, no in network, no out of network. But what does that mean? That means we're going to need more doctors, more nurses, more techs, more hospitals, all of the support system around that. So then you also have to bring education into the plan, right? You have to provide a way for the people of this country to become what they want to become, because we need them in those
Mhm.
jobs.
Yeah.
That's the federal government's job.
Yeah, the only thing that scares me is that there's a lot of bureaucracy in government, and government moves really slow and really bad at anything that they do.
Mhm, mhm.
There's really no financial incentive for it to even be effective. That's what scares me. That they'll take the single payer healthcare system, and it just won't be a good healthcare system.
You want to know the problem? I'm a problem solver at heart. I hear what
Mhm.
you're saying, right? The problem is we the people have, I want to say forgotten, but perhaps have never known the power that we have.
Mhm.
And in our division, we have a government that doesn't work for us. And in that, not working for us creates pain, suffering, poverty, crime, illness, right? We suffer. And in our then struggle to survive, we don't unite and demand what we deserve.
Mhm.
What is supposed to keep government accountable? What is supposed to make government work? It's our vote.
Mhm.
I'm running for Congress. My term is 2 years. That is not because my job is less important than a senator. It is because my job is so important. I am to be a firewall between an out of control executive branch and the people.
Mhm.
It is so important that if I am not doing that job well, the people in my district only have to deal with me for 2 years before they can fire me and get someone else.
Mhm.
But we have such a problem with voter turnout because no matter who we elected, it didn't matter. Nothing changed for us. That apathy has set in. And so people are like, how am I supposed to get to the polls? In Indiana, our polls are open from 6 a.m. to 6 p.m. How is a working family supposed to get there to vote?
Mhm.
How do you get up, get your kids to school, do what you have to do, go to work, and then you're done with work, and then get your kids and then get to how are you supposed to do that?
Mhm.
Why are we telling people that voter fraud is rampant? Why are we trying to shorten early voting days? Why are we threatening to post agents at our polling locations? It's because the powers that be right now are terrified of our vote. And if we can get that message out, that our vote is the kryptonite to a corrupt government, and we can get everybody to the polls, then the government will once again become a government of the people, by the people, for the people. Because right now, it is a government of corporations, by corporations, and for corporations.
Mhm. Yeah, honestly, uh, voting day should be just a national holiday, a federal
I agree.
holiday.
Absolutely. I agree 100%.
And I think
Absolutely.
th- that'll increase voter turnout for sure.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And,
Why do you think we don't have that?
because high voter turnout is bad for the politicians running on the
The bad
corporate,
politicians,
yeah,
right?
on the
The ones who are
corporation's
in it for
money.
themselves and bad for corporations. Exactly.
Hmm. Yeah. And, talking about corporations, there's another issue that I'm really against, and that's having private prisons and
Mhm.
having these corporations run facilities that incarcerate people. That's their entire business.
You're exactly right.
Yeah.
It is cruel and inhumane and corrupt at the highest level. It's like a hotel that needs to be at maximum occupancy and so that they can build another hotel, right? If for
Mhm.
every empty bed they're losing money. That is a conflict of interest with the American people, right? It's
Mhm.
like we need more criminals to fill our beds so that we can make more money.
Mhm.
Eh, Horrible, inhumane.
Yeah, and that influences crime. It has to.
Oh,
It because not only do they lower the barrier to commit crimes, but it also influences the crime happening
mhm, you're
indirectly,
right.
right?
Yes, all of this plays in, right? We have to look at this deeper than some people have looked at it. And I've listened to some of your podcasts, so I know
Hmm.
this is important to you. And we need to realize the corruption in the system, that the profiteering that happens with full prisons, right? Why there's a motive to fill the prisons up. We have to
Hmm.
look at the racism that's involved in the
Hmm.
unfair adjudication of these crimes, right? When they're prosecuted, if you have money, if you're white, if you have power or influence, you don't pay the price for your crime. And if you don't, then you could be in jail for years before you ever see a trial if you don't have
Hmm.
enough money to bail or bond out, right? So there's
Hmm.
injustice in that. But then also, crime itself is a result of broken systems. Let me change that. I think the systems are working exactly the way they're designed,
Hmm.
but by people who don't have a problem inflicting suffering upon us, right?
Hmm.
So if you eliminate the despair and the need for crime, you can lower those crime numbers. But we don't have a system in place that wants those numbers lowered. Listen, I was in Ireland and I took a
Hmm.
tour of a prison there. It was a historical prison. And so we were on tour. And they said that the youngest person incarcerated there was 5 years old.
That's
And
crazy.
it was because, yeah, they stole an apple. They were starving and they stole an apple. Now,
Yeah.
this may seem like a reduction, but what I want people to understand is if the child wasn't hungry,
Hmm.
he wouldn't have stolen the apple and then he wouldn't have been imprisoned.
Hmm.
So we have to go to the root of these issues and fix them there.
Yeah.
But we don't see that happening right now. We see increased suffering,
Hmm.
right? It's harder and harder for people to put food on the table, keep a roof over their head, and put gas in their tank and see a doctor if they're sick. We are not making it easier. We have seen this happen in other countries. Where does
Hmm.
this end? If we don't fix it at the ballot box,
Hmm.
it's not going to be pretty.
Yeah, and there are certain issues that are very conflicting because we can't reduce punishment. We have to have at least the right punishment, right? We just can't
Mhm,
have any punishment for crimes being committed. But at the
mhm,
same time, if we have private prisons, that's a conflict of interest because now these corporations are incentivized to lock people up, and there shouldn't be an incentive to lock people up. But we do need harsh punishments for certain crimes
mhm,
because that could also reduce crimes. And an issue that we're seeing is that a lot of places, it could be cities, states with a lower punishment threshold has more crime because criminals know that they're just going to get a slap on the wrist. So we can't have that either. So it's very conflicting. Like we need harsh punishments, but at the same time, we can't have private prisons, if that makes sense.
It makes sense, but can we talk about it from another angle for a second?
Oh yeah, let's go ahead.
Rather than using the word punishment, if I asked you, why do we incarcerate people who convict crimes? If we look at it from a punishment perspective,
Hmm.
I think that that invites the cruelty that we're seeing happen. If we
Hmm.
instead look at it and say, okay, incarceration needs to happen to protect society.
Hmm.
Okay. Then we can maybe gear this system more towards rehabilitation. Because when I think about a baby that's born, I have 6 kids and 13 grandchildren. I've held an awful lot of babies that I love and would die for in my day. And when babies are born, I don't think they're born evil. I don't think that they are born saying, well, I hope I grow up and end up in prison, right? So either something happens to them or there's a chemical imbalance or something in them, some sort of mental illness, right? And those
Hmm.
are who we find in our incarceration system, right? That they're something, but both of those two situations are not really their fault.
Right.
So while they make choices that cause harm, we need to remove them from society to protect society. But if we use the word punishment, I
Mhm.
think that it is, I think it causes more harm and increases the recidivism,
Right.
right?
Mhm.
We label people and we say, you're bad, you need to be punished. Does punishment really change anyone?
Uh-huh. Yeah.
I mean, if you're going to keep them locked up forever, fine, call it what you want. But let's be honest here. People get out.
Mhm.
What do we want for them and for us upon release?
Yeah, the end goal is just having a better society, right?
Right.
And it's how do we go about that? And that's the balance that I'm talking about. I could have an opinion, and then you could bring up like very important uh, uh, points, and that's what I like because I
Right.
know that I'm not 100% correct on anything,
None of
uh,
us are.
but and this is what I mean about both parties, that both parties want the same thing. Is like, how do we get there though?
Mm-hmm.
And uh, prisons and punishment and incarceration is one thing we could talk about. Is okay, so we both want a better society, we want
Right.
less crime.
Right.
How do we get there? Because another the point that you talked about, punishment, is that that's very true. Because in a society, and let's break it down to a neighborhood, that
Mm-hmm.
you see a lot of you see the cops
Mm-hmm.
treat the citizens or the residents of that neighborhood a certain way. It inflicts something in children that they start to mirror the behaviors of criminals, and that's true.
Yeah.
It's talked about. So
Right.
so there's fact to that.
Yeah. Absolutely. Listen, there's been so many studies in classrooms that kids become who the teachers tell them they are. Right.
Mhm.
That how a teacher treats a child in a classroom will affect their performance in the classroom. And I remember reading about a study once where there was a child that had been a problem in so many classrooms and they were moving him around and then they put him in another classroom and the teacher decided to start praising him for being so smart, so
Mhm.
good. I see you making great decisions. Well done. And they bloom in that environment.
Mhm.
And we don't spend enough time helping people believe in their worth. Instead, very often, our judgment of groups of people or neighborhoods or communities or whatever, our judgment of them seconds the voice in their head that's telling them there's something different or something wrong with themselves. We don't spend enough time being kind. We don't spend enough
Mhm.
time helping people believe that they have worth and they have value. And so that manifests itself in criminal behavior.
Mhm. And also important in our school system as well.
Hmm. Right.
And I think if we focus on these issues, we could improve society, reduce crime, uh, while keeping incarceration at a good level, not because you have to, but because if you commit a crime, you should expect uh, to be incarcerated for it.
Hmm.
Uh, but it's very
I
tricky
mean, let's
because
extrapolate to the absurd just for a
yeah,
second. Can
yeah,
we
yeah.
just play a little game here and think? I mean, sometimes I do this because I force myself to think outside of the box
Mhm.
so that we can find real solutions. And so like this is going to sound ridiculous at first, so just bear with me for a
Mhm.
second. What if prisons were instead mental health institutions with
Mhm.
doctors and psychologists and stuff like that to help people? What if they were getting the therapy that they need or the medications that they need that would help them instead of We just lock them up, we treat them like cattle, we throw them out in the yard together, we allow all of the deviancy that happens on the street, all of the criminal behavior and the survival strategies that they've learned in the harshness of the streets, and it's just in the prison system as well.
So we used to have that actually, didn't we?
Mm, I don't know. If
We
we did, why the heck did we ever go away from it?
I'm sure there was some outside influence, but I think
Mhm.
we actually had mental institutions, and
Yeah, we do.
yeah,
We
like
did.
a lot, or asylums. I don't want to. I'm butchering the word, but
Right. Yeah,
you,
asylums.
yeah.
Yes. Yep. Yeah.
uh, but you know what I mean. We used to have these institutions, and we got rid of all of them,
Yep.
and
But people are waking up. I
mhm,
just met with an architect in one of our urban areas that's in my district,
right.
and they do a lot of school design and prison design, right?
Mhm,
Justice buildings, they call them. And they actually have on staff mental health professionals to help them now design the buildings in such a way that will provide what the people who are incarcerated need in order to become better, to
mhm,
heal, to become more healthy, and to begin to believe that they can be functioning members of society and
mhm.
contributing members of society.
Yeah. Yeah, because I've seen a lot of, prison documentaries and,
Hmm.
these, prison shows, and,
Hmm.
um, that's my experience with prisons, but I've
Sure.
seen a lot of them,
Hmm.
and from hearing these stories that, especially the, Stanford prison experiment, that you have a group of, people and they're treated horribly, and there's going to come a time that they're going to be free
Right.
and they won't be able to function in society
Right.
because that causes a lot of PTSD,
Hmm. Absolutely.
extreme
Absolutely.
amounts. Because
Right.
in when you're in prison, you're always vigilant and fighting for
Yeah,
survival,
you are.
and you are let out, and that just doesn't go away.
No, in fact, you've learned how to be even more reactive, right? How
Mhm,
to be even more vigilant, how to survive in a dangerous environment. And so now you're always looking over your shoulder for danger, and you have to be the one who hits first or the one in order to survive. This is part of the problem. We have to ask, what is the goal of incarceration? I think it is to protect society.
mhm,
And so if you throw them into prisons and it further harms them,
mhm.
are we safer upon their release? Did we actually make society safer by incarcerating that individual?
Yeah, and it just seems like we're not. We're doing the
We're not.
opposite.
Right. But remember, if you have a for profit prison system who makes money off of the recidivism,
Mhm,
right? You understand where this is going. They don't care. They want them locked back up again.
mhm,
I have been inside of many jails and prisons and following people and trying to help people along the way. I've seen it firsthand, and I think we can do better. That's all I'm saying.
mhm.
Let's have these types of conversations and talk about whether or not what we're doing is actually helping our society become more safe, more free, and more just.
Absolutely, and mental health is a big factor of that,
Mhm.
and
And getting bigger every day.
yeah, and I mean, we see that, with the increasing homeless population, a lot of them have mental issues,
Mhm.
and it's hard to deal with because now, there are politicians that are incentivized to keep, the homeless population because of programs for, that deal with the homeless.
Mhm.
And that's another thing that I was talking about in government, that you have certain incentives to keep the system broken, because if the system is fixed, there's really nothing to run on. You can't run on everything is perfect. You need to run on all of these, systems are broken, because you get in and, you try to fix these systems, but I think it's just a mirage.
What if I mean, I hear what you're saying, and
Yeah.
that has been true in the past, right? That
Mhm.
problems drive people to the polls or problems fuel elections and all of this. But we just don't know yet
Mhm.
what the role of government would be in a utopian society. And
Right.
I don't know that we'll ever get to a utopian society. And so, in that case, we will always need government. But I
Mhm.
think the role of government should be to move us closer and closer to a utopian society. But
Mhm.
when you have corporations that profit off of our suffering, we will always be fighting them until we control them, until we bust up monopolies, until we say, hey, listen, $1 billion is too much money for any individual to have when you haven't broken a sweat in 20 years.
Mhm.
You're really, really just taking money from your laborers.
Mhm.
This is wage theft.
Mhm.
And you've taken more than you should have. And if a billionaire can, let alone Elon in his
Mhm.
trillionaire status, can
Mhm.
go to sleep at night knowing that children are starving to death,
Mhm.
that's a sociopathic condition.
Mhm.
Those type of people should have no control over our government,
Mhm.
but they do because of their money.
Mhm.
That is why I think that we have a a criminal level of wealth gap. It's a threat to our safety, to our freedom, and to our opportunity.
Mhm. No, I
It's a
agree.
threat to
And
democracy.
what would you suggest the alternative to be?
Listen, in my mind, you hit $1 billion, then I don't care what you make after that, it goes back into society. Plus, we have to go back to taxing them like we
Mhm.
used to tax them in the 80s. Not so much because we have to have their money, but because that
Mhm.
amount of wealth skews everything in their favor.
Mhm.
So without sounding hyperbolic, you end up with 100 people with all the control over the billions of
Mhm.
the rest of us.
Oh yeah.
How? How are we supposed to trust our government when it is controlled by people who can sleep at night knowing that they just took health care from poor children and food benefits from poor children to the tune of $990 million and or $1 billion and gave the
Yeah.
exact same number in tax breaks to the ultra wealthy?
Mhm.
That is theft. That is corruption. That is grift. That is
Mhm.
suffering for no reason.
Mhm. Yeah. N- that number, I mean, is pretty outrageous.
Yeah.
And we need to do a better job with spending as well, because there's a lot of fraud in government as well.
So, yep. So let's talk about that for a
Mhm.
second. Where do you think the fraud is coming from? I mean, to me, the fraud is coming from the tax breaks that we give the ultra wealthy. The
Mhm.
fraud is coming from the amount of the dollar amount of
Mhm.
contracts that we give to the war machine, right? Um, Again, the ultra wealthy get richer. To me, that's the
Mhm.
fraud. The fraud is not the family on welfare.
Mhm.
That is not the fraud. We're not talking about we're
Mhm.
we have to understand that the grift is happening from the super wealthy,
Yeah.
not us, not we the people. So where's the fraud? We watched Elon Musk go in there,
Mhm.
wave around a chainsaw and say he was going to cut everything he needed to cut. Well, you want to know what just happened in Texas? I just read about this week. We now have a screwworm epidemic in our cattle. Right?
Mhm.
Why do we have this? We took care of that because the flies that flew around and would land on sores, I'm not going to get gross. What scientists decided what they were going to do is they were going to take these male versions of these flies and make them infertile. Took care of the whole problem. No more screwworm epidemic in this country and all the way down through South America. Fantastic. Elon Musk went in with his Doge chainsaw and his little minions, and they searched under anything that had the word trans in it to
Mhm.
cut because of DEI. Well, they were using a science called transgenics
Mhm.
in order to take care of these flies, and that budget got cut. So now, guess what we have? We have
So
another worm epidemic. And you know what's
yeah,
going to happen? That's going to hurt cattle farmers. And you know who else it's going to hurt? Anybody who eats beef.
which is the majority of the
All of it.
country.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. This is what I'm talking about. We have the wrong people in power. We have
Hmm.
people who don't listen to science, who don't want to believe in science. We have politicians right now, including our president, that said, I love the uneducated. Why do
Hmm.
they love the uneducated? Because they can pull the wool over our eyes. So if they love the uneducated, is it any wonder that they are defunding public schools all across this nation, that they are making it almost impossible for people to get higher level education?
Hmm.
They break it to privatize it. What that means is make it not work so that the rich can get richer and the
Hmm.
people cannot get the education that they deserve and that this country needs. Education is a national security issue. We should
Hmm.
all care about this.
Yeah.
We don't.
And that's where the fraud is happening. The fraud is happening with people getting rich from tax dollars. That's
Mhm.
the fraud, and there's a lot of people enriching themselves by tax dollars. So we
It's
need
been happening
to,
for a long time.
yeah, like we need to fix that before we really start investing into certain programs. But it's like, are we even ever going to get to that point?
Yes. Yes, we are going to get to that point when the people wake up and they start voting for people like me who are in this
Mhm.
for all the right reasons, who refuse to be bought, who refuse to be scared, who refuse to bow down to corporate power and pressure. And
Mhm.
when we can get people like me to office who will stand up and say, no, I'm not taking your dollars. I don't care. I am going to fight for my children and your children so that they can have healthcare, education, food, good paying jobs, and clean air, clean water, and clean soil.
Mhm.
But all of that is at risk right now.
Mhm. Yeah, and I like how fired up you are with these
Well,
issues.
I have 13 grandchildren.
Yeah.
I tell my kids I would don't we all tell our kids we would die for them.
Mhm.
So Congress? Hell yes, I will do this for you. I should.
Mhm.
I have to do this for you. And when
Mhm.
I fight for my family, which is black, white, brown, gay, straight, trans, I have a daughter who's a single mama of a 4-year-old daughter. I have a mother with stage 4 breast cancer. We are union workers. We are artists. We are musicians. We are small business owners. Listen, my family looks like the cross section of America. And every
Mhm.
one of them has a target on their back right now. So am I fired up? Damn right, I'm fired up. I've had it with my
Mhm.
family being in danger while Elon Musk dances around with a chainsaw declaring that he needs to cut USAID when my granddaughter was kept alive in an orphanage in Sierra Leone until we could adopt her and bring her here because of help like USAID. I
Mhm.
know children are starving and dying and not getting the medication they need because he thought it was cool to dance around with a chainsaw. I've
Mhm.
seen those kids. I've been in that orphanage. And let me
Yeah.
tell you something else.
Mhm.
You want to make this world safer and you want to make this country safer, stop making terrorists.
Mhm.
What do I mean by that? Yeah, we have a large part of this world that wants to dance around on our flag and say death to America. But you want to know why? Because we did a double tap strike on a school of little girls. That's
Mhm.
not who you are. That's not who I am. Why are we letting this government tell the world that that's who we are? It's because our government is not made up of people like me and you. We've been
Mhm.
told we're not qualified. I got
Mhm.
news. We are, and
Yeah.
we are coming for them.
Yeah. It's pretty exciting to see what's going to happen because things need to change, and I feel these are the dangers as well with the internet is that people are getting a lot of misinformation, but there's also a lot of information coming through that we didn't have access to.
Right.
Now, with that information is the misinformation. So if you add crumbs to the information that misleads people, people are just going to take everything as it's all misleading. So that's also the issue. But
Well, and then couple that with propaganda, right?
mhm,
You have misinformation. Let's call it lies. It's
mhm,
lies. Okay.
yeah.
It's lies and propaganda. I did a video, I don't know, probably now I don't even know, 8, 9 months ago. And I had just had it. And I came out here and I turned on my thing and turned on the light. And I said, listen, not in campaign attire, but I just need to talk to you human to human. for a second? Is it okay with you that we are bombing boats off the coast of South America? Is it okay with you that we have armed agents in our streets? Is it okay with you that our bombs and our tax dollars are paying for a genocide in Palestine? Is it okay with you? And when I said, is it okay with you that we are using military helicopters over Chicago, going into apartment buildings, pulling out children in the middle of the night, and zip tying 5-year-olds on the street corner?
Hmm.
So when I posted that video, which has now been viewed almost 2 million times, I had people private message me and saying, I didn't know. I
Hmm.
didn't know any of this was happening because we are so siloed in our news sources. But not everybody has the time that I have to watch multiple sources and try to think my way through to find what is really happening here. So
Hmm.
we have to find people that we trust and ask them. People ask me all the time, what news do you listen to? Where do you get your sources? And I'm like, multiple places. That's important. But also, we have forgotten how to use our critical thinking skills, right? We have forgotten
Hmm.
to watch some news story and think to ourselves, who profits off of this message? Whatever I'm being told right now. Because if it's big business, I'm going to have to research this a bit and find out what's really true.
Hmm.
We don't have the time or the bandwidth to do that when we are trying to keep a roof over our head, food on our table, and gas in our tanks. We
Hmm.
have to survive. We are at the bottom rung of Maslow's hierarchy of needs. We are still trying to get what we need to stay alive. How the hell can we ever get up to the point of self actualization, that utopia point that we were talking about? We've got a long way to go, but we can get there if we have the right people in power who are actually there to fight for us, come what may. Nothing good in this country of value has been come upon easily. It
Hmm.
has been blood, sweat, tears, and our very lives sacrificed for justice that we knew we deserved. We are at such a place right now in our history. Your grandchildren will read about this time in their school books. What will it say of us? That we laid down and said, what do we do? We can't do anything. Or we fought like hell to give them a place to call home.
Yeah, like I just don't get how someone could listen to you just rant and then just say, I'm going to vote for the other guy.
They don't.
Yeah.
They don't.
But that happens
No,
a lot.
when I have conversations with people and I explain things to them, they're
Mm.
like, okay, that makes sense. Happens. I had a man come to my porch just a few weeks ago and said, I'd like to have a yard sign. And I said, okay. He goes, I got to be honest with you. I've been on the Trump train all 3 election cycles. He said,
Yeah.
but I got up this morning and I went to the food pantry to get food for my family. And I thought to myself, why the hell am I defending a man who is enriching himself to the tune of billions off of my tax dollars, and I can't feed my family?
Mhm.
So everybody has their tipping point. For some people, they can look at a marginalized group and say, I see danger for them. I'm going to circle the wagons and protect them. For other people, it has to hurt them first, but
Yeah.
better late than never. He can lie. The president can lie all day long about esoterical things and what's going on in other countries and Putin and China. But when he looks at the American people and he says, you've never had more money, you've never had more food in your fridge, the economy has never been better, and you open your fridge and you look inside and you realize that's not true for you, and you brave enough to talk to your neighbor and you realize it's not true for them, people are waking up.
Mhm.
And I'm seeing it every single day. The
Mhm.
man I'm running against has spent more time in Israel than he has in this district in the last month. He thinks it's cool to post pictures of himself with IDF officers. That's his selling point to the people of Indiana's 3rd district, when we have farmers here who can't afford diesel and farmers here who can't afford fertilizer,
Mhm.
teachers who are living out of their cars, and truck drivers who can't afford their diesel.
And
Sorry.
these are the same politicians that are supposed to be America first, right?
Yeah, right. No, but they're not. They're them first. See, America first sounds good, right? But but words don't mean as much as actions. Don't listen to what they say. Look at what they're doing. That is what is most important.
Hmm. Yeah, and and what I tried to say is, so there are going to be people that are never going to vote for a Democrat if they're a Republican.
Mhm.
The other thing is true, but sometimes you just got to look at the issues and look at the way that that candidate is representing the district, and what I meant is, how can someone uh, that is never going to vote for a Democrat look at your fiery speech and just
Mhm.
say, I'm going to vote for the other guy that does not have my best interest at heart?
The only reason that that happens is if they don't trust me. Let me
Hmm.
tell you something. I went to an event in one of our rural counties, and they said there's going to be 500 people here. It's a meet the candidate event. If you'd like to come up for 2.5 hours, they're going to be sitting here eating. And so I said, great, I'll come. And it was a Lions Club event. I walked into the room, and all of 8 people out of the 500 quietly whispered to me that they were a Democrat too. Okay. So you get a feel for what the room
Hmm.
was. I walked around that room for the first half hour and I passed out my lit on the table and they wouldn't touch it. Like it had the cooties, right? Like, and all it
Hmm.
talked about was childcare and education and healthcare, right? And but they didn't want to touch it. And I said, "Do you have any questions for me?" And they said, "No." And I said, "Okay, well, I'll be back around." So I walked around the room and about a half hour later I go back around again to the same tables. And this time they did have questions for me. They say things like this. So you're a Democrat, so you don't believe in God? Or you're a Democrat, you believe in open borders? Or you're a Democrat, you want to take my guns?
Hmm.
And when I got the time to when they asked me those questions, I could dispel the propaganda about
Hmm.
who I am
Yeah.
and what I'm fighting for. And so I would walk around the room again. And by the time the evening was over, they're calling me over.
Hmm.
And they began telling me how mad they are, the farmers, the teachers, the nurses, the doctors, the truck drivers, all of them. I had one man come up to me and say, these names will mean nothing to you. But he said, I've given money to Jim Banks. That's a senator. I've given money
Hmm.
to Todd Young. That's our other senator. And I've given money to Marlon Stutzman. That's who I'm running against. And he said, I am never going to give them another penny. Where can I mail you a check?
Hmm.
Because common sense, while it feels uncommon, does resonate with people. When I tell them that when the housing bubble took a dump in 2008 and my home was in foreclosure and I had a vehicle repossessed because I was looking at, we have a concrete contracting business, right? And I'm
Hmm.
like, do I keep the boom truck and the wall forms or do I keep the house? And I've got 6 kids here and I've got 2 kids that aren't mine that just needed a safe home. And my
Hmm.
husband would come home from pouring concrete every day and I could give him one look and he would know you don't eat till the kids eat. Right? He was like, he would look at me and I'd look at him. Either I had enough or I didn't. And he and I would eat if there was anything left. When I tell those stories, they understand I am them.
Yeah.
I have felt their pain. But right now, we have people in power who haven't felt our pain. And so when we try to tell them that we're hurting, they return to us shame and blame. And they tell us, get a better job, get another job, eat a small piece of chicken and half a tortilla and call us up a day. I'm sorry. That means we have the wrong people in power.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, listen, Kelly, I really look forward to your campaign, and I wish you the best of luck because it seems that our current politicians are not doing enough what the country needs.
They don't care enough.
Yeah. Yeah.
Ultimately, that's what it boils down to. Who are you working for? Are they working for themselves or are they working for us? And again, don't look at what they say, look at what they do.
Yeah. Yeah. Like whatever party you are, uh, you just need to be a representative of the people
Right.
and not corporations. It doesn't matter
What if
what.
there was no party? What if people just ran for office without a party affiliation and you got to talk to them and find out what they were going to fight for? And then you held them accountable for what they said.
Mhm.
What if there was no party? I think the country would look completely different because
Yeah.
we wear our party ideology as our own identity.
Hmm.
So to change your mind is a scary process,
Hmm.
right? It's who am I in that moment? But really, we're not Republicans or Democrats. We are humans trying to stay alive, trying to take care of our families. Find the candidates that you believe in, the candidates who are talking your language, who understand your life, and who are promising to not take any corporate PAC money, who will only take money from their donors so that I only answer to the people of my district.
Hmm.
Vote for those people.
Yeah. Oh yeah. And so where can people find more about you?
Sure. So you can, my website is kellythompsonforcongress.com. I am on Facebook at Kelly Thompson for Congress and TikTok, Instagram, Twitter or X. I have a Substack article that comes out every day. Just Google me. You can find me. And please do. I don't care if you live in the northeast corner of Indiana or where. I get donations from all over the country. Just
Mhm.
last week, I have a recurring donor from Honolulu, Hawaii. It's $1 a month, but that is an important dollar a month. And the reason that I get donations from all across the country is because when I do podcasts like this,
Mhm.
or I post videos on my social media, people hear me, they believe in me, and they understand that when I get to Washington, D.C., I will be writing and passing legislation for all the people of this country and,
Mhm.
in fact, the world.
Yeah. And, that is what is needed. We need politicians like that. And those politicians excite me.
Yeah. Well, yes, it's new, but we can't say
Mhm.
because we've never had it, we can't.
Mhm.
We can. I'm part of a coalition of candidates called the Take Back group, and that's bring accountability to Congress. And we've signed on to 5 things. It's no stock trading while you're in Congress, a 5-year moratorium on lobbying after you're done being in Congress to make sure that you're working for the people while you're there, overturn Citizens United, make sure that there is an enforceable code of ethics for the Supreme Court, and term limits, right?
Mhm.
Easy to sign on to. And there's over 120 of us right now. So there is a whole band of people across this nation that are fed up with the way things are going, that are fighting for our families and are in it for the right reasons. But we have to support them. Send me your 5 or your $10 a month or whatever you can afford, because it takes money to get there. I don't have to spend the money that they're telling me that you have to spend because I do the work. I was in a
Mhm.
parade today, and then I went to a meeting today, then I had a business lunch today, and I'm here with you today on a Saturday. My family's on vacation, but I'm here, and they know why, and they're grateful that I'm fighting for them, because this is what it takes. I knock on doors, I make phone calls, and I am everywhere that somebody will have me, regardless of party, because what I'm fighting for has nothing to do with party.
Mhm.
It's that we have to take care of our children. We have to take care of this planet. And we have to make sure that families can afford to live in this country.
Yeah, that's what I like to hear. But
Yep.
good luck with your campaign.
Thank you.
And yeah, I just wish you the best.
Thank you so much,
All
Eric.
right.
This has been
Well,
fun. I enjoyed this conversation.
it's been really fun. But
Yeah.
so let's do it again.
Okay, let's do it.
All right.
Very good. Thank
Uh,
you.
well, thank you. You have a good one.
You too. Bye bye.